Evening. I'm honored to open the State of the Library address. As the chairperson of the Library Board of Trustees, I work with all the trustees as well as our library director to ensure that the library has the well-defined mission, goals, and policies needed to best serve every Bloomfield resident. Libraries are, at their core, service organizations. The Board of Trustees, working in close cooperation with library leadership and staff, aims, as our mission statement affirms, to provide all members of our diverse community with access to comprehensive services, expansive print and electronic resources, technology, and expert assistance from a caring and responsive staff. By breaking down barriers to access and opening doors to opportunity, building community, and encouraging lifelong learning, BPL works to improve the quality of life for all of our residents and strives to be the heart of our town. To fulfill this mission, BPL is continually expanding services to include technology equipment, assistance, and instruction to bridge the digital divide. Robust, ever-increasing digital resources available at all times are provided, as well as traditional books and materials. The library partners with our schools to support our children, including an increased presence providing library service in the school buildings. Diverse services available to all our neighbors now include resume assistance, help navigating online job applications, support in managing healthcare paperwork, copy and fax services, and much, much more. Library programming has both virtual and traditional options, with more programming accessed by more neighbors than ever. Our library leadership team and our extraordinary staff are exemplars of public service. Perhaps most importantly, the library strives to provide our neighbors with what they want and need while extending dignity and respect to all. We are now engaged in the process of construction and renovation that will create physical facilities to support 21st century library services. Our leadership and staff are using extensive input provided by residents in planning those facilities. They have also written a successful grant, resulting in funding $5.526 million of the budget for the library projects. In our rapidly changing world, services are also changing and adapting as the future becomes the present. As our library director reminds us always, that future is bright. And now I have the privilege of introducing the Mayor of Bloomfield, Mayor Danielle Wong.
Thank you, Ava. Good evening, everyone. Library trustees, library staff, our Director of Library Services. My name is Danielle Wong, and thank you again for inviting me to the State of the Library. I don't have much. I know you want to get into the drill it down, but I just wanted to say how important the library is to the entire town. If those who were present in our recent event for groundbreaking in the Library Center branch, it was very, very exciting, and the entire town is really excited to get this project moving forward. The library as itself, as far as the construction of it, has been a project that has been an endeavor of this town since I was a girl going to Bloomfield High School. And to see it come to life before us is very, very special, not only to me, but many members of this entire town. There aren't any one person cannot take credit for that. It was truly a team effort, and I'm excited to share a little bit about some of the history of how we got here. So in 2021, of course, the town overwhelmingly voted through referendum to build 2 new libraries and enhance our library system. In the face of inflation, we had many, many challenges, including higher construction costs. And in order to combat that, the town council appropriated $500,000 to fill in some of that inflationary gap and continue on the project. We had some hiccups at the state, but we got through it, being it a new grant. And so I'm excited to receive those funds and allocate those funds from the state community investment fund to continue to close the gaps in project and get these doors opened in spring of 2025, I believe. You know, in the face of inflation, in the face of a lot of turnover with the town management in various departments, we still managed to secure a AA+ bond rating as we went out to bond for the library projects at the top of the year. Connecticut, in itself, with this particular bond in Bloomfield, broke records. We had a record number of bids come in at the top of the year, and we are very excited to present and pass on one of the lowest interest rates that the town surrounding and this town has seen in history ever before. And that just passes on taxpayer quality of life, lower taxes for our residents and our neighbors. So I'm just really excited that we continue to stay diligent on the town council side to pass on a lot of these fiscal stable and fiscal sustainable activities to the library project. And so at the forefront of every decision, we have our neighbors and prioritized in that, from social services to policy creation, and to just being good stewards of not only our tax dollars, but of the culture and what makes Bloomfield so special as a brand. And so again, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for everything that you do. The library remains an integral part of all of the departments of Bloomfield and a part of the fabric of the future and our vision for this town. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Wong. Is Deputy Mayor Harrington here? I know he was planning on saying a few words as well.
I don't see him.
Yeah.
Okay, we
At the
will
moment.
wait, and if he enters, we will hand it over to him. But thank you so much, Mayor Wong, for speaking on behalf of the council this evening. Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Lane, and I have the privilege of serving Bloomfield as your library director. It is a privilege, and it is also a lot of fun, especially when you take into consideration the entire Bloomfield Public Library staff and everything we do on your behalf. We had a really busy year, and we're going to be focusing on fiscal year 2023, but we're also going to be giving you some insight into both the present and the future. So stick with us, and I think everyone's going to learn something new today. We spent fiscal year 2023 focusing on the future, saying goodbye to the present, and putting into action plans that were years in the making. We wrote a successful $5.526 million grant to keep our library buildings project moving forward. We had formal farewell parties to celebrate and say goodbye to Prosser and McMahon libraries as we knew them. And finally, on Friday, June 30th, 2023, we closed our door to the public and activated the final stages of our move-out process. All the while, library services to our deserving public continued with our strategic plan guiding the way. We increased our focus on teen services and debuted a new teen advisory group, which led to an increase in circulation and new programming ideas. We went through an organizational realignment, and you'll be seeing some of those promotions in action tonight, as the people who were promoted will be speaking as well tonight. We rolled out BPL Everywhere, a series of initiatives to increase our presence where we are needed in the community while our buildings are under construction. This expands upon our already established presence in daycares, preschools, and elementary schools. We're truly here for you. We completed our first year of a digital program feedback form for adults. We received over 640 responses, with 89% of those programs being rated 5 out of 6 or higher. Our staff continued to learn and grow, as evidenced by BPL being one of 3 libraries in the state to join the inaugural Equity and Leadership Alliance cohort as part of the National Conference for Community Justice. We continue to be more transparent and informative, as demonstrated by the delivery of BPL's first State of the Library address last year. This is our second one. And our continued focus on excellent communication across our platforms, including our weekly newsletter and our social media feeds. So stay with us tonight, keep participating, and I hope you learn new ways to participate with us as we go through all of the different things that we do to make sure we're providing as much equitable library service as possible during this time. Now, I spoke about our strategic plan, and our strategic plan is very much so a living document. It's something that we put together with both of our staff and our library board, and you'll see that vision here. It includes 4 different goals. The first one being one library card, endless possibilities, with the constant reminder that library cards are free for all and everyone is entitled to one from birth. Number 2, a library for everyone. And that means focus on excellence across our 3 locations, serving all ages. Interestingly, in this time, our 3 locations include BPL Tech Express, which is located at 330 Park Avenue, BPL Atrium, which is located at 1300 Hull Boulevard, and BPL Online. BPL Online is our 24/7 location where you can access so much, including newspapers, movies, TV shows, electronic resources, and of course, our fabulous programming for all ages. Number 3, we're here for you. We want to ensure a positive experience for every single person who uses library services. And we also want to reach all of those who do not know about library services. And that's where you all come in. We are humbly asking that you tell a friend, a neighbor, a family member, tell them about BPL and what it can do to improve the quality of life for them. And number 4, we strongly believe that community plus library equals a better Bloomfield. We are very focused on encouraging lifelong learning and reaching all members of our very diverse community. And that means a lot of things to all of us. Who helps us do this? We have the BPL Board of Trustees, all of whom are elected for 4 years at a time. In fiscal year 2023, this was our BPL Board of Trustees. You'll see our chairperson and the 5 other members of that team, and they guide us in creating better policy, making sure we're staying in tune with our strategic plan, and helping us navigate challenging times for both Bloomfield Public Library and the larger library community. Some of the highlights from this board included signing the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities Civility Pledge. They approved a collection development policy and privacy policy, and they also served as ad hoc members of the Library Building Committee, with Patrick DiLorenzo being the vice chair of the Building Committee. Our current BPL Board of Trustees includes 3 new members, and you'll see them here: Sherry Ann Chance, Aaron Corbett, and Claudia Gardick. Another core part of the Bloomfield Public Library are our Friends of the Library. And as we know, there's many things that lead to a library to flourish: a friendly and knowledgeable staff, an expansive collection of materials, entertaining and educational programs, warm, welcoming spaces. And the icing on the cake for all of that is the Friends of the Library. They help us connect so much more to the community. They're a nonprofit volunteer organization dedicated to the support of libraries through fundraising and advocacy. They're also active users, and they help raise community awareness and appreciation for everything we have to do. And as the Friends state themselves, we believe that excellent libraries are essential to our community. They supported us in a variety of ways this year, including help fund our Juneteenth participation. We had a wonderful concert again. We read out loud the Emancipation Proclamation. They also funded our summer reading program and the rebirth of our teen advisory group. Our teen advisory group, we are hoping, are going to help guide us moving forward with all teen services, programs, collections, etc., and have a very active role in the future of our library. The moving out process was major, and they also helped us with that. We had parties at McMahon, Wintonbury, and Prosser Library to both celebrate all of the memories in those locations and to say farewell to them. You'll see here a picture of the harpist that played at the Prosser party. We had a DJ play at the McMahon party, and you'll also see an image here of our teen advisory group at McMahon Wintonbury Library hanging out and again deciding the direction of teen services at the library. Another amazing thing that they put in motion was the Load Your Tote campaign. We created tote bags that had the library logo on them, and the Friends paid for all of that and then helped us encourage the public to fill them up so that when the library closed, while we transitioned from our old facilities into our temporary spaces, people would have enough materials to get them through that time. And it was very successful. One of our favorite stories has to do with when the 6th graders from Carmen Arrayes Middle School came to visit. We saw 20 shelves of manga and graphic novels go home with those 6th graders in one day. And that's exactly what we want to do. We want to get as many books into the hands of our students and our families as possible. And again, our friends help us do that. I'm now going to pass it over to Allison to continue a little bit more about talking about our staff and professional development. Allison.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. My name is Allison Wilkos. I'm one of the assistant directors at the library, and I wanted to talk a little bit about staff and professional development. Elizabeth, are we going to turn the slide?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to start out by talking about all that staff has done to share their expertise with the greater community. So our staff members have presented at a variety of local and regional conferences, and also through leadership and participation at local roundtables. Where we have found success as a staff, we try to share our best practices with other libraries and organizations throughout the Connecticut community and beyond. We highly value professional development, and we give all of our staff members the opportunity to pursue professional training, as well as providing group training periodically for all staff. We are constantly learning new skills and best practices to serve the Bloomfield community to the best of our abilities. Last week, we had a staff professional development day that included a workshop in the morning and a visit to the Noah Webster House in West Hartford in the afternoon. We were able to tour the museum's brand new state-of-the-art archival storage and workspace, which was a great opportunity because the new Prosser Library building will have an archival storage space. So as you can see in the picture, they were showing us some of their equipment and storage. So we're really excited to get into the new Prosser building and be able to put away our own historical collection.
Thank you, Allison. I also wanted to add before you go on that our morning session was taught by Dion Nichols. She's pictured in the pink pants in the center. And she spoke to us about the power of forgiveness and coached us to be the type of leaders who lead from a place of self-compassion and a healthy sense of self-worth to experience more joy, peace, purpose, and possibility. Purpose-driven leaders who are kinder to themselves can create safe spaces for others to show up as their highest and best while also being human and imperfect. And amen to that. We're always trying to improve how we interact with both ourselves individually, each other as a staff, and with our public. And Dion will be leading a public session on March 13th, so the public can also learn some of her ways. And we are also going to be debuting a Noah Webster House Museum Pass, so please stay tuned. Allison?
All right, thank you. I also wanted to talk about staff in general about their contributions to the library. So the library practices a responsive service model, which means we follow the needs of the community very closely and use community feedback to inform our work. This can only be accomplished with a team of staff who are flexible and committed to excellence. We currently have multiple staff vacancies, and staff does an incredible job to fill in the gaps left by these open positions. So good a job that it can be difficult from the public perspective to understand how many challenges library staff face to maintain services. But our fantastic staff runs the library, I like to say, like a well-oiled machine. And I want to recognize and celebrate their dedication to the Bloomfield community and the diligence in their work. We have a dynamic team, and the library cannot function without them.
Thank you, Allison. And I just wanted to point out some of the people on our team. Some of these people have moved on, but we are thankful for all of those who still remain. So now we are going to go back and we are going to talk about some more of our highlights, starting with summer reading. Summer reading was generously funded by our friends and was kicked off on Juneteenth with that concert I spoke about earlier. And you'll see that we had over 3,000 books were read by both youth and adults during our summer reading program. And we had over 2,600 program activity attendees, which was excellent. More than 700 additional books were read this year than last year, and we had over 1,000 more activity attendees. So I want to thank everybody who continues to share about summer reading. Summer reading is something that libraries in Connecticut do in partnerships with their local schools to make sure that children and families are engaged over the summer during those months when they're not in school. So it's a really important part of what libraries do. Interestingly, we saw that a recent study by the United Way from our region, Greater Hartford, Northeastern Connecticut, found that 61% of low-income families have 0 books in their homes. So again, this is another part of making sure that we are that bridge to learning, exploring, and continuing to have fun. Goal number 1 of our strategic plan is very specific and intentional about getting a library card into the hands of more people in our community. Bloomfield library cards are free. Again, I want to say it. Bloomfield library cards are free. There is no cost involved. Bloomfield library cards are available to everyone from the moment they are born, and we encourage you to come sign your children up for a library card. It's a wonderful way for young people to learn responsibility and to feel ownership. We also are very aware of how many people may have misconceived notions about libraries. And one thing about libraries is libraries are free. So again, you come use our resources and it's all for free. Since our strategic plan dropped, you'll see how our intentional focus on library cards and getting them out into the hands of our public has really given some dramatic results. And you'll see in 2019, we had 6,488 people in Bloomfield have library cards, and that's slowly edged up to a high at the end of fiscal year 2023. We have just over 8,000 Bloomfield residents with a library card. We wanted to remind everybody that library cards expire every 3 years. So if needed, if your library card is not working, you can just call us or come in and we're able to update that library card. But we want to make sure your library cards are valid. So make sure that if the expiration date is near, that you take care of that. And again, this is so important because not only does this library card get you access to books, magazines, materials, etc. It also allows you to use BPL online. That gets you access for free to such resources such as Consumer Reports, the New York Times, digital media to watch educational and fun programs at home, streaming services, etc. So please make sure you have that library card ready to go. We also had our farewell parties that we talked about. And here's some adorable photos from those parties with our community members, some staff members, and you'll see our buildings. Prosser is no longer there, but that was how it looked. And also McMahon, Wintonbury. McMahon is still standing, and we're figuring out what we're going to do with McMahon as we speak. But as we know, these buildings are going to have a new vibrancy that we're really excited about. And again, I want to thank the Friends of the Library for funding these programs. And I see actually in the bottom right, one of our librarians, Sarah Ray, holding up that library lover bumper sticker. It's a magnet, so you can put it on your fridge or your car. And I can't tell you how exciting it is when I'm driving around Bloomfield and I see that bumper sticker. I'm now going to hand it over to Chris. Chris, to talk about the digital divide.
Yeah, hi. I'm Chris Silowak. I'm the other assistant director at the library, and I tend to oversee the library technology, and I've done that for over a decade. I do want to speak briefly. I want to revisit, instead of going over this slide, I want to revisit a little bit from a PowerPoint presentation that I did at the Connecticut Education Network conference with Quincy Gill, one of our full-time library assistants, who helps me with technology. And let me just pull that up. All right. So we went to the CEN conference to present about our vision for the new library buildings and how to do technology planning and just general planning and service rollout when you're going through so much change. And so one thing I just wanted to briefly touch on, just as a reminder, what brought us here today. And this was the timeline I used. This was in May of 2023 when we did this presentation. And you can just see the massive amount of changes the library has gone through in the last few years. In September 2019, Elizabeth started. We had a new director. And shortly after that, we rebranded to the Bloomfield Public Library. We had a series of retirements before and after Elizabeth started. So there was a lot of change there. And of course, in March 2020, we have COVID-19. Bloomfield Public Library continued service without pause. We were one of the only libraries. We were doing curbside service within a week. And within a month, we had robust virtual programming in April 2020, and we're still doing that today. July 2020, the formation of the building committee, and we started our own tech team internally so that we could start doing technology appointments during that COVID period. June 2021, we reopened to the public, and then just 3 months later, we get another flood. The community room gets knocked out of commission permanently at Prosser. So we continued that virtual programming skills came in very handy. November 2021, the referendum passed for the building project. Then we faced a series of challenges that Mayor Longfoot referenced about with inflation, and we got some grant funding and some political help, some help from our town council. And in March 2023, the construction documents were finally completed. We began building, and then we moved out in July. So this is all just in a couple of years what the library's gone through. And what that's taught us is some key lessons. And I'm going to just use these really quickly to touch on the digital divide. So, and what we do with technology. The first lesson is don't let the perfect be the enemy of the new. Elizabeth has really helped teach me that. Like, we don't always have to have every single thing thought out before we roll out a service. Let's roll out a service. Make sure we're hitting the key touch points of the service based on our strategic plan, and then adjust accordingly. And an example of a service where we jumped in head first is the Chromebooks and hotspots that we loan. We acquired $30,000 of emergency connectivity funds in 2023, so that as we were going through all this upheaval, we would be able to provide up to 50 households at a time with internet. It's been very successful. Most people got to keep, because we had so many devices, most people got to keep them for months at a time. So they were connected even when the library couldn't offer its same services for certain periods of time. So that is one of the things we're really proud of. We knew it was going to be challenging. Most libraries only offer about 5 devices. We are offering 50 of them with federal funds. Lesson 2, turn we can't do that into what can we do. So everybody knows we have this big building project and we needed to find a swing space, right? So that was challenging. I think many people know that it took a little while before we found the atrium. But we also were concerned about our McMahon Wintonbury Library users on the east side of town. We wanted another space, especially for technology. And so we're really proud of the initiative we did at 330 Park, the Human Services Building. We call it BPL Tech Express. And we took an underutilized technology lab and basically took all of our McMahon technology services and crammed them into room 117, a small room with about 7 PCs and a copier and a scanner and everything you can need to do in tech, and library staff to help. I want to thank the department heads in that building for allowing us to do this and working with us. Yvette Pennell, the Director of Senior Services, Dave Malesko, the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Leisure Services, and Camilla Hillian, the Director of Social and Youth Services. This was a great opportunity for Bloomfield residents, and we've literally served thousands of people since July when we opened that location with everything imaginable. So that was us turning we can't do that into what can we do. 3, it takes a team. Allison has already alluded to this. The Bloomfield Public Library takes a team approach to everything, and it's really important because one thing we're proud of, we've gone through a pandemic, a flood, and a transformative 2-library building project, and we really have never closed. Even when we closed our doors in order to move, we were always answering the phone. We were always offering service over the phone. We had all these Chromebooks and hotspots out there, and we were offering virtual programming and outreach program the entire time. The library has never stopped. And the only way you can do that is if you take a team approach to everything. We meet every week, once a week, we do an all-staff meeting where everyone contributes. It's a big part of our philosophy. Lesson 4, it's not just about tech support, it's about emotional support. This is really important. That tech space at 330 Park it's a small room. People need a lot of help with resumes, applying for social services, a wide range of things. Our staff has to be empathetic and professional, and they're there for people in times of crisis. And one thing that I like to say is, anyone at any time can end up on the other side of the digital divide. All it takes is for your printer to fail, your laptop not to launch up, or your internet to go down at home, and you're coming to the library for that emergency support. I've had people come in for important interviews at the last minute that they were doing remote because their technology failed, and we gave them technology and a quiet place to do that. So that's part of our lessons. 5, there is no normal, there are only core values. That's definitely what we've learned. So we stick to our strategic plan, our social justice mission statement, and our policies to kind of help guide us whenever we're putting a new service in place. And this is what guided us as we were looking at technology in our new buildings. As we were developing the new buildings, as the building project was coming together, we realized that the hybrid world was here to stay. And so even though we didn't originally have it in our building plans, our wish list, we went back and we revised our AV and said, we need hybrid and we need to give it to the people, not just for us to use as staff or as town employees, but for the public. Which leads us to lesson 6, the library should aim to give power to the people, which is one of the main things we do. We want to give as much power and technology in people's hands as they can use. We don't want to be a barrier. We want to trust them with the technology. That led to some of the exciting parts of our new building here. I just want to quickly point out, we're going to have hybrid spaces in our community room, our board room, and collaborative study rooms where people can work together, stream from their phone, their laptop. work remotely. We can have book discussions that way. We can have teens gaming that way in the teen room. So it's quite, I don't want to go into every detail right now, but it is quite an exciting thing we're putting into Prosser, with this new building, including a technology training center, which we're kind of focusing on skill building and creativity. And I also want to take that into the mobile world, where people will be able to work on like music projects or film projects at home with library technology, as well as in the library. And then lesson 7 I'll end with is drive your vision forward for as long as you can. We have learned how difficult it is. You have so many obstacles that come your way that you're not expecting. And you kind of, and Elizabeth is very good at this, and Ava is very good at this as well, is just sticking to it. We really believe in what we're trying to do with our vision for these 2 buildings, and we're going to keep trying to get as close as we can every day. So hope I went through that fast enough.
Thank you, Chris. And yes, life's not a track meet, it's a marathon. And that's how we're thinking about library services and our strategic plan. How do we just keep moving forward to create an equitable service model for as many as possible? So thank you. Just going to go back to sharing my screen. And I wanted to say one of the highlights from last year is we went to a Digital Inclusion Week event at Hartford Public Library. And you'll see former Deputy Mayor Greg Davis, former Board of Trustee Leah Farrell, Allison and I. And then below, we met American Library Association Executive Director Tracy Hall. And I can't tell you what a rock star moment that is. She is a rock star. And she has since stepped down, but it's interesting to note that the ALA executive director started at Hartford Public Library in the Albany branch. And when I first came to Connecticut, that was the first branch that I ran. So it's kind of coming full circle. But again, we're doing a lot. And this little stat here, 31,000, almost 32,000 articles were downloaded from our databases last year. And again, all free with your library card. So again, we want to get our library cards into the hands of as many people as possible. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about our programming. And you'll see our literacy of focus. As per our strategic plan, the literacies we are focusing on are health literacy, financial literacy, legal literacy, civic and social justice literacy, and digital literacy. Those are all summed up in all of our materials, meaning collections, books, magazines, online resources, our programming, our social media presence. We're constantly trying to make sure we're hitting on all of these things. So for instance, I know that it is currently Black History Month, so we have a whole lot of resources on that. It's also Domestic Violence Teen Awareness Month, and I know one of our community partners, Interval House, that our librarian Rachel Tanucci works very closely with. You'll see we did Purple Thursday awareness last year, and that's where all staff wore purple to bring attention to domestic violence and the resources to help you get out of those situations. But we also brought Interval House into the high school, and we were able to connect Interval House and their resources with our teens in the high school during health class. So that was a really great example of our strategic plan in action. But we had so many different programs, for instance, financial literacy, side hustles with local entrepreneur and financial guru Patrina Dixon. We had estate planning 101. We had Faces of Homelessness with Hands on Hartford, and a ton of digital programming, including how to explore BPL online with things such as Consumer Reports, which we talked about earlier, how to download audiobooks on your phone or your device for greater use. I also have a picture of the West Hartford Bloomfield Health District staff. Last year they came and they gave training on suicide prevention, and I can never pronounce this word. naloxone. Am I saying it right? I should know how to say this. I know it by the more common term for it. But if somebody overdoses at Bloomfield Public Library, we are trained to be able to be there and help them. Okay. For more adult services, we are going to talk about Tom Nicotera. He had overseen our poetry program, the McMahon Wintonbury series, for a very long time, and we honored him last year, along with Marilyn Johnston and Laura Vassell at McMahon Wintonbury Library. It was great. We have a Millennials Read group that is partnered with Simsbury Public Library, where we get millennials together both virtually and in person. Here you have a picture of the group at Republic in Bloomfield, hanging out, talking books. And this is just a couple of things that we did, including on the town hall lawn, Worldwide Knit Day, where everybody sat together and knitted things on their arms. And again, more things about BPL everywhere, because it's true, your library is everywhere. We also had a great year with our teen services. As we talked about our teen advisory group, we have a Dungeons and Dragons group that meets regularly still. Here you have a picture, two of us at the high school during lunch period. We try to be at the high school for an hour every Friday over the lunch period to connect teens to our materials and resources. And last year during Library Card Month, they had 78 teens sign up for Bloomfield Public Library cards. Again, this is what we're trying to do, get our young people the resources they need to succeed. And again, we already talked about our partnership with Interval House, and we're very thankful for them and for the Friends of the Library for funding these initiatives. We also had a lot going on with our younger people and our younger youth services. Again, doing all different types of things, including Take Your Child to the Library Day, our very popular 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten. It sounds harder than it is. The goal is to read to your child every day. And if you do that, you'll easily get them 1,000 books read to them before they even start kindergarten. And it will just help them propel into the road of success academically and in the school environment. We also had some more very focused campaigns about helping teachers and students access our collections, including with Global Experience Magnet School, GEMS. We have a Pokemon Club, and of course, we have all of our young people coming into our library locations and just hanging out and having fun. Their guardians can sit and relax, and while the young people do all the things they need to do, and then you see Miss Nicole all dressed up there for Pokemon Day. We also had our first ever BookCon event. And again, our goal is to have every young person and family in Bloomfield have a bookshelf and have some of those books be books that they own, and then the rest of that bookshelf be a rotating list of materials from the library. And this was an event where we were able to work with publishers, many publishers, call them. They donated a ton of books, and we had so many young people go home with books that they wanted to read, free books of all kinds and extra goodies such as those capes. So over 180 kids filled up these really adorable totes. And again, thank you to our community and 330 Park for hosting us. We've also had a lot of young authors, young adult authors and children's books authors, including Bloomfield's very own Kamarley Henry, who you may all know from his columns in The Messenger. Well, he's also a published author, and we had him speak, and we have his materials in the library as well. And we're very excited to be able to say, because he's definitely going to be a famous graphic novelist one day, that we knew him when. We also have Jonathan Axelrod over here in the bottom left. He is a young person. Am I in the right picture here? Oh, wait, hold on. Let me catch up, everybody. We were here. Here. Okay. Sorry about that. There we go. So Kamarli Henry's there on the bottom right, and then Jonathan Axelrod, who used the library's reference materials to write his own nonfiction book about things that he's found. And I meant to bring it here so I could show you all, but I'm just going to tell you, come and ask us about Mr. Axelrod's book. I think you'll be very intrigued. And I have recently learned that he's working on his second book, which we will also add to our collection. But one of the highlights from last year was author Nathan Hale. He is a nonfiction graphic novelist who covers many historical events. You'll see the Donner exhibition is the books that he's holding right there. And he came and spoke about his books and what it's like to be a cartoonist. And we had over 500 students in grades 4 to 6 participate. Again, a very successful run with him. But I've been talking for a while now. I'm going to hand it over to Dia for our next segment. Dia?
Thank you, Elizabeth. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dia Sakarecha, and I am the site manager of Prosser, one of our 2 physical locations of the Bloomfield Public Library, and I'm also the head of circulation. And this evening, I would like to talk about BPL's diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, also known as DEI and B, those efforts and how it translates to our service model. I'd like to draw your attention to a couple of points in our strategic plan, which is found on our website. And this was also mentioned earlier by Elizabeth, well, just recently by Elizabeth, under library values and literacies of focus. Bloomfield Public Library values the right of every citizen to have equal opportunity to achieve personal success. We are committed to leading with empathy and improving the quality of life in our community with a focus on access and education in the following areas: technology access and training, social justice and cultural competency, lifelong learning from birth to seniors in the areas of reading, writing, early and basic literacy, finance, and health. The work we do in the circulation area is more than just checking out and discussing books. In the wake of this country's continued social unrest, we launched our social justice initiative. BPL began our journey of learning and in some cases introducing DEI and B to our staff, our collections, and our service model. From 2023 through July 2023, Elizabeth and I participated and graduated from a social justice cohort led by the National Conference for Community and Justice, also known as NCCJ. We were one of 3 libraries in the state accepted into the cohort. Only 15 organizations from the Southern New England region were accepted into the cohort. And the social justice work we do is in a constant state of evolution. There is no clear-cut fix to what some families systemically, some for generations, face in this town, in this state, and in this country on a daily basis. We also realize that many patrons face unexpected life events, including job loss, health crises, death of a loved one, and home displacement. No one, not even town employees, are immune. BPL is dedicated to alleviating some of the burdens faced by those in our community. For example, we no longer have fines on our items. We have applied for and received grants to purchase hotspots and laptops for our families to borrow to complete job applications and homework assignments when our physical locations are closed. We started a world language collection for our children's department, and we hope to expand this to some of our adult fiction collection when we return to our respective spaces. We continue to offer free printing, faxing, and copying to patrons. As my colleague Chris mentioned earlier, patrons use our tech services to print out weekly time cards, make appointments with the DMV for tax forms, which is the tax season is now here, and even applications for citizenship, just to name a few. We stand strong in protecting the voice of our youth, particularly those in the LGBTQIA plus community. BPL is a safe space for those who cannot live in their truth at home, at school, or in the community at large. As stated in our social justice mission statement, our social justice work is multidimensional. We hope this work will improve the BPL experience for all residents, with special attention focused on addressing racism, sexism, ageism, heterosexism, genderism, classism, religionism, sizeism, ableism, and socioeconomics, with the awareness that many barriers people are facing are intersectional in nature. We are working on breaking down barriers to access every day, and this work includes, but is not limited to, external communication and branding, customer service aimed at non-users, going fine-free, updating a collection, creating a safe and purposeful space that can accommodate the various needs of our public, and increasing the number of library card holders in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Dia. And now I'm going to hand it back over to Allison to talk about our many community partners. Allison?
Okay, thank you. So our joint programs and services with our community partners help us achieve our literacies of focus as we have outlined in our strategic plan. And we have just a few highlights from this past fiscal year. We have nature walks with Philly Park. We had the Great Puzzle Swap at Philly Park. We also have partnered with the Lions Club, whose donation allowed us to add some nonfiction and fiction books to our teen collections with the African American and Latinx themes. And then we also partner with the Wintonbury Historical Society for several programs a year. Some of the recent ones were the flood of 1955, early houses of Wintonbury Parish in Bloomfield, slavery in Wintonbury, and then On the Line in Bloomfield, which focused on how schooling, housing, and civil rights shaped Hartford and its suburbs. So those are some examples of the Historical Society programs we do. Those are also on our YouTube channel. Mostly the presenters are gracious enough to let us record those. And in our annual report, we have a extensive list of all of our community partners. I just wanted to highlight one more that we've spoken about before, our Dignity Grows tote bags. So the library has tote bags which contain men's or women's hygiene products, and patrons are welcome to pick up a tote at BPL Atrium on a monthly basis to replenish their supplies. But we could sit here and tell you all night about all the fantastic things we do with our community partners because they are so great. The little quote says, "We couldn't do this without you." They're integral to what we do here at the library and the services and programs we provide to the Bloomfield community. So thank you to them.
Thank you, Allison. And now I'm going to hand it over to Carol.
Evening. My name is Carol Walters, and I'm the site manager for BPL's McMahon Wintonbury location. And I would like to address the state of the library from the point of view of an imaginary immigrant family new to the town of Bloomfield. The Branch family is a family of color and is comprised of 2 parents and 2 children. The children are preschool and toddler ages. The family is staying with relatives until they're able to save enough money to secure their own place. In the meantime, Mama Branch has been able to find part-time work with a local tailor and is away from home working during the day. Pop Branch, who has not yet found employment, is providing childcare at home for the little ones and is usually at his wits' end most days by noon as to how best to keep them occupied until their mother returns. According to a November 29th, 2023 report by the U.S. Census Bureau, in households with young children, 35% of parents reported they did not work because they needed to care for the children. However, unlike the Branches, most times the responsibility of providing care for these children is overwhelmingly borne by mothers. Nearly 9 out of 10 parents, 87%, who do not work to care for children are women. Also, interestingly, most parents, regardless of their kids' ages, said they didn't have any type of child care arrangements, including 35% of those with children under the age of 5, and more than half, 54%, with children ages 5 to 11. Pop Branch thinks there's probably more he could be doing with his littles during the day, but since he doesn't have access to the internet, he has to wait for a relative to come home in order to use their phone. So he figures as long as the children are fed and bathed and dressed, they're fine. The Bloomfield 2023 Equity Profile by Data Haven states, statewide, Black and Latino residents are slightly more likely than average to live in a household without broadband access. Unfortunately, this is the case for the household where the Branch family resides. With the change in seasons to colder temperatures, confinement due to a lack of transportation, and social isolation tempered by familial and cultural expectations, Pop Branch is beginning to experience strong feelings of anxiety and depression. Data Haven also states mental health issues like depression and anxiety can be linked to social determinants like income, employment, and environment, and can pose risk of physical health problems as well by complicating a person's ability to keep other aspects of their health care up. Overall, 11% of Bloomfield adults report experiencing anxiety regularly, and 5% report being bothered by depression. Spoiler alert, this is where the story takes a quick turn for the better. Data Haven's 2023 Equity Profile Report states, throughout Connecticut, Black and Latino residents are largely concentrated in denser urban areas, which tend to offer greater walkability. Of adults in Bloomfield, 61% report having stores, banks, and other locations they need, like libraries, in walking distance, higher than the share of other adults statewide. Fortunately for the Branch family, they happen to be staying with relatives who live on the most densely populated and underserved side of Bloomfield. This turned out to be fortuitous for Pop Branch, where during his regular evening walk without the children, he ran into a friend of the family who was on his way to the library to return a book. When Pop Branch lamented the fact that he did not have any money to go to the library with him, the friend quickly corrected his erroneous thinking by letting him know that everything at the library was free and invited Pop Branch to go to the library with him. That evening's visit to the library was life-changing for Pop Branch. When he arrived at the library, he learned not only was he able to get a library card, but that a whole new world of resources and opportunities came along with that card for he and his entire family. His hopefulness returned. He found out he could bring the children to a lively, interactive, and fun story time on Wednesday mornings for free. He found out he could use the computers at the library for up to an hour at a time for free. He found out he could access resources on the computer which were important to him for the advancement of his family, like voting and citizenship resources, one of which is a citizenship toolkit that includes flashcards, videos, and study materials, and a link to information to obtain a drive-only license for free. Also, on the library website, Pop Branch found Peterson's test and career prep, which Mama Branch will be able to use as a resource to allow her to prepare to continue a career in education, all for free. The next morning, and every weekday morning after that, as Mama Branch was on her way to work, Pop Branch was bundling up the little ones, and the three of them were found exploring all the wonderful and free resources the library has to offer. Pop Branch found the library was much more than a repository of books. and you will too if you come to visit us at our Tech Express lab at 330 Park Ave or at the Atrium, 1300 Hall Boulevard. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. We're now going to go ahead a little bit and talk about our collection highlights. We have a lot of materials for everyone, including materials in new languages, as we see new people moving into Bloomfield who speak Spanish, Ukrainian, Vietnamese, Russian, and more. And yes, if you haven't met those people, they live in Bloomfield and we welcome them at the library. We have a hiking kit in our Library of Things, so please check it out. I also wanted to talk about our Take Your Child to the Library event that happened earlier this month. It was hugely successful. We had a magic show, we had a petting zoo, and we had a book truck come, and it was wonderful to see more than 200 books go out. There were 75 children who interacted with members of the Hartford Symphony Orchestra and were able to hold on to the instruments and play them. And we also had a magic show with over 100 attendees. As was stated earlier, we just had our groundbreaking event. It was very exciting. We had a donut truck. We had a lot of members of the community, as well as our town officials, library board members. I see Tai Sue up there in the middle, our esteemed architect, and our staff members in the picture on the bottom. Prosser is coming down. Here's some pictures of it happening. And it's been fun to watch. Currently, they're putting over 400 piers into the Prosser ground, and that's going to serve the foundation of what's about to go up, all the concrete and everything. And that's what that huge machine is. And they're almost done with that. I hope everybody has been watching the library building committee meetings. That's where you find out what is going on. And you'll see here are some photos of what Prosser is going to look at. Last year, we were number 29 in the state for programming. A lot of those were virtual numbers, and I'm excited to see all of that. A lot of it happened in our community room. That's the image on the bottom right that you're looking at. The great room on the bottom left will be when you enter the space. So you'll see the reference librarians there, and there'll be lots of open space. On the top left is our youth department. And on that top right, you see kind of an overview of what the building will look like. Our current locations, you can find us at the Atrium and at Tech Express. We're open at the Atrium Library Monday through Thursday, 10 to 6:30, and on Fridays from 10 to 5, and at Tech Express at 330 Park Avenue, Monday and Tuesday from 10 to 6, Wednesday and Thursday from 10 to 8, and on Fridays from 10 to 2. And every Friday morning at 9 a.m., we have a BPL online class in that space, so please ask us about that. We wanted to remind you that the library building committee is the one who is overseeing that building project and guiding its direction. We encourage you to attend and share your voice, stay updated. Your voice matters. Those meetings happen every other Wednesday at 6 o'clock. There's a virtual component as well as an in-person component. Similarly, the library board meets on the second Tuesday of every month at 5:30. That's another venue to stay in touch, stay in tune, share what you're thinking about, what we're doing right, what we could be doing better. We're really open to all of it. We want to do our best to serve you. Okay. And I also wanted to touch base about some of the current challenges happening in the library community. Currently, the legislative session just started. Here, you have a picture of about 65 librarians from around the state. The Lieutenant Governor invited us all to come and share about the challenges facing libraries. One of them was about ebooks. Currently, libraries are charged much more than the private consumer about ebooks, and we don't own them. We really just rent them. So we're asking our public to help us combat that because our budgets really aren't growing and the use of those materials is increasing drastically. So we're hoping to figure that out, and our legislature is helping us. So thank you. Library funding is also something that's always up for debate and always being challenged, both here in Bloomfield and across the state and the country. So the Lieutenant Governor wanted to hear more about those battles, as well as information about book censorship. Essentially, it's you who decides what you read. And if you have little ones, the guardians who decide what the little ones have access to. And the legislature is going to be working on making sure that that is better understood by all through a variety of measures. So please stay tuned as we continue to talk about that. I wanted to again point out just some numbers. Essentially, last year we had over 88,000 library visits. We had 74 programs with more than 17,000 program participants, which is just amazing. We saw a 7% increase in library card holders to where we're just over 7% increase with over 8,000 Bloomfield residents with library cards. And we had 133,000 items circulate, which averages about 6 items per resident. So bravo to all of that. We had 17,000 plus uses on our public computers, which was a 21% increase from the year prior. So I want to give a huge shout out to our tech team about that. And then finally, before we leave, I wanted to talk about leading by example and just how much expertise you get from your staff here. Rachel Tanucci was appointed to the co-chair of the Connecticut Library Consortium Social Justice Roundtable. Sarah Ray is the co-chair of the Connecticut Library Consortium's Adult Programming Roundtable. Allison and I spoke at the New England Library Association conference last year about library marketing. We do it really well. Bravo to our team. Allison also graduated from the New England Library Association Emerging Leaders Program. I've always known she was a leader, so there was no surprise there. We had our youth librarian, Heidi Moon, who's since then left us, present what your public library can do for you, for our young librarians. And we had Nicole Dolet speak about her experience creating science bites. And Quincy Gill and Chris Silowak, as they talked about earlier, Chris spoke at the Connecticut Education Network conference last year. So finally, I want to invite all of you to subscribe to our weekly e-newsletter, participate in Black History Month, follow us on social media, call us, visit us in our temporary spaces, look for our calendar in the Yankee Flyer, and you can also see our weekly programs in the Bloomfield Messenger. So on that note, I'm going to stop talking, and I wanted to turn it over to our public to see if they had anything to say, or if the rest of the BPL leadership team had anything else they wanted to add. Thank you, Libby. And I see Patrick DiLorenzo, Vice Chair of the Library Building Committee and Board of Trustees here. Patrick, I don't know if you wanted to say anything before we sign off.
Really, all I would like to say, Elizabeth, is a huge thank you to you and your staff, to Chris and to Allison and all the others that spoke tonight, Carol and Dia. Thank you so much for everything you do. It's evident that the library is truly a huge part of this community, and we need all the services that you provide. So I learned a few things tonight, and I appreciate that. And I also enjoyed my tour of the atrium. So as you mentioned already, I certainly would encourage anyone who hasn't been there to visit the library at the atrium and just see what is there. There's a lot. So again, thank you for everything, and congratulations on all of the efforts that you have put into the state of the library and this report. So appreciate all you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. And before we leave, I just wanted to again show everyone where to find us. So you go to our website, bplct.org. You'll see the you can subscribe to our newsletter on the right side of our website, and you can also access our social media feeds right from there. Our hours are here, including where to stream ebooks, e-audio, movies and television shows, magazines, newspapers, and music. Anybody who watched the Super Bowl last night saw Usher. You can get Usher music through this website. So again, there's just so much to offer with your library card. And please tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your family members, use your library, support your library. Let us know you're out there. We really always appreciate that outsider voice and the feedback we get. So thank you so much. And again, thank you to our library board for helping us navigate everything we do.
I think Irene has a question.
Oh,
Hi, how are you? And I'm sorry, I came in late. You may have already discussed this, and as a patron, I have to tell you, I just love going to the library here. But I'm so glad that you're going to have lovely new facilities. I think you're going to get even a lot more people in. I just wondered a little bit about staffing. One of the things I keep reading about is how with the hiring freeze, you can't hire new staff. And I'm wondering how that is impacting programming and if there is anything, that we can do about it or help with in any way.
thank you, Irene. Yes, we are currently down 10 positions, 2 full-time, 8 part-time, and it has been very taxing for our staff, especially as we have the challenges of the building committee and essentially every time we have to move facilities, it's a complete relaunch of all services, figuring out everything we need to do. I'm very thankful to say that the council has green lighted 1 full-time position.
Great.
So we are about to go out for a full-time youth librarian, which is very much needed. And I'm hoping that person will, I know human resources is also short-staffed, but I want to optimistically say that we'll have that person onboarded by May. I think that we can say that. And I think that when we get that person on, it's gonna help us with that bandwidth issue. So essentially we did have to reduce some services, including homebound. We've cut back a little bit on programming. It's like everything we have to do, we've kind of done it a little bit less. But we're trying to be intentional about that, and we're trying to be as equitable in the way that we approach that. And I know the library board helps us a lot to navigate those waters. But we're really hopeful that moving forward, we'll be able to better explain those needs to the council at large. We're about to enter budget season. So there's just a lot of things to consider and to navigate and talk about. But Irene, thank you for your voice. And I know we have Board of Trustees here who will absorb that commentary as well.
Thank you.
Did anybody else have any questions? The other big thing to note is, as I said earlier, McMahon Wintonbury Library, after we were $9 million over on the bids coming in, there were some decisions made. And so Prosser is proceeding as planned. McMahon is currently being figured out. So that's the other big unknown in our future right now. So it's the staffing in McMahon Wintonbury Library. But just as we did with this whole process, reaching out to the community, using community input and surveys, we're going to continue to do that. And I'm very hopeful that at the end of this, we're going to have 2 really amazing libraries to fully serve our public. And I think all the stakeholders are firmly embedded to that idea. So again, it's just getting everybody on the same page and making a lot more decisions. It seems that's all we do is make 1 million decisions all the time, and then they change everything, and then we make 1 million more. But we're going to just keep on going with that method and rolling with the punches. All right, if there's no more questions, library cards are free, the future is bright, and thank you so much for supporting Bloomfield Public Library. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.